Good evening. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. My name is Faraz Patel. I would like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us. And of course, my colleague Lukman Shadrack for taking you through that first part of the show. Now, over the weekend, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa said should the party win the upcoming elections, it will focus on 6 priorities to help grow the country's economy. Ramaphosa addressed thousands of party supporters at the Moses Mabhida Stadium as the ruling party hosted its manifesto. Ramaphosa said that after this election, the party will not be looking on the achievements of the last 30 years, but ways to better the lives of citizens in the future. Joining us now for the first time on Hilaal Live, I'd like to welcome political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Prof, good day. Thank you so much for joining us on Hilaal Live.
Thank you very much for having me.
Prof, 30 years, it sounds as if when you listen to that manifesto on Saturday, they had what they would term fresh ideas. Realistically looking at it, I mean, if they could not achieve it in the 30 years, what makes them think that they can achieve it in the next 30 years if they are to have that power?
Well, one-party dominance is a thing of the past. And the ANC of late has had a downward electoral trajectory, largely because it has a history of making commitments and not honoring them. No wonder it has fallen short of performing well. And the possibility that it might lose power in the upcoming general elections is not far-fetched. Most of the things that came out of the manifesto in question were a regurgitation of what was articulated in the manifesto of the ANC of 2019. For instance, if you look at the issue of jobs, it's not something new.
Yeah.
But the question is, did the ANC achieve that particular objective of creating jobs? Of course, they would blame COVID-19. I mean, if you look at the issue of corruption, taking a stand against, corruption has been worse since the appointment of the Zondo Commission. But those findings have been put on hold because the first thing that comes to the mind of the ANC is not the country, but the ANC itself. The list is endless. If you look at the issue of power outage, the ANC has not addressed it the way it should have. We also have another elephant in the room, which is water shortage, which has affected many areas, in particular in Johannesburg. So based on that, I don't think that the ANC enjoys a great deal of popularity throughout the length and the breadth of the country.
Prof, I want to talk on the jobs perspective, right? So obviously President Ramaphosa has this grand plan of 2 to 3 million jobs which he'd like to see being created in the next 5 years. But you've mentioned it. He said the same thing during 2019. I remember him saying the same thing in his first State of the Nation, which was in February 2018. He spoke about this National Development Plan. We are now 6 years into when he announced it, that it could work out. We are now 6 years away from the date that it's supposed to be implemented. And you look at the job statistics, comparing what was said by the ANC, and the picture does not look pretty with regards to that.
Well, one of our macroeconomic policy objectives is to achieve high levels of economic growth, but our economy has not been growing the way it should have, partly because of how it has been mismanaged. So the ANC has always subscribed to this neoliberal line of thinking that if you grow the economy, you will have a trickling down effect. But our economy has been growing by 0%, and unemployment at the moment is sitting at 32%, and it is worse amongst the youth. And the worst part of it is that those young people are the ones that are threatening the country, so to speak, not to vote in opposition to the way things are. I get the sense that, if you look at priority number 1, talks about jobs plan, the issue of jobs. So the ANC wants to create these jobs out of small, micro, medium enterprises and the public works programs. But a lot of small, micro, medium enterprises have not recovered from, the consequences of COVID-19. Secondly, a lot of small, micro, medium enterprises, they're the challenge of not having a collateral that they can offer to banks in order for them to get capital to kickstart their businesses or to expand them. But also a lot of small, micro, medium enterprises have a challenge of not being paid on time by government. Government doesn't pay on time. Imagine if you have a small business, you have been appointed to be a service provider, you're not paid on time. That will, affect the progress of your business. So those are some of the challenges that exist among small businesses. Then lastly and most importantly, the issue of public works program. Those programs are not creating sustainable jobs. Those are temporal jobs, which doesn't assist in terms of making people to make ends meet in the long run.
Prof, the selection of Moses Mabhida, I mean, I know this was done months in advance, but one would say that when you're looking at it right now, it was to supposedly, a sort of an electioneering ploy by the ANC to have the confidence for the province of KwaZulu-Natal because, hey, its former president has now joined a certain MK party who's kind of making a good amount of noise within that province. Does the ANC still have the ability to take that province, given that when you see statistics with the MK, making a bit of a noise there, and you've still got the IFP waiting in the wings, does the ANC still have that pull within that province and knowing what that province holds?
I don't think that it has a political capital to take the province or to bounce back to power or to hold on to power. Even if there was no Umkhonto weSizwe, I don't think that it would have stood a chance of winning the elections. Umkhonto weSizwe has made the situation worse for the ANC. I think the IFP at some point stood a chance, but the ushering in of Umkhonto weSizwe has not affected only the prospects of ANC coming back into power, but also it has affected the electoral prospects of the IFP coming to power by replacing the ANC. So Umkhonto weSizwe has shifted the political attitudes of the people of KZN. And the reason why the ANC also launched its manifesto there is because it is concerned about the possibility of losing power. And the EFF also is in the mix because, it might be one of the kingmakers. Obviously, do not win the elections in KZN, but it will play a role in terms of who will come to power.
Prof, the ANC speaking the tone of majority a win. There's a sense of confidence within them. But surely within their close ranks, they themselves believe that, look, there has to be a possibility of a coalition government, not just in some of the key provinces, but nationally. Is that something they're concerned about, knowing that their majority is slowly but surely dropping?
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
The question was, are the ANC, they speak in the tone of majority power, but surely in the back of all of this, they're thinking this country could be heading into a coalition, not just nationally, but also in the key provinces.
I don't understand the thinking of the ANC because on the one hand, they say they're confident that come hell or high water, they're going to win the elections. That's what they say in public. But then the question is, why did they hold deliberations with other political parties last year to debate the possibility of having a coalition arrangement after the electoral outcomes this year? The deputy president convened a meeting discussing a framework of coalition arrangements with other political parties. What is the meaning of that? It means that you anticipate that you might not come to power, you might not win the elections outrightly. So my argument is that in public, they say, come hell or high water, they will come back to power. The president said they've got a plan to be in power for the next 30 years, but their actions don't suggest that. Their actions suggest that they are worried. That's why they had a sort of like a a forum to discuss how a coalition arrangement can be facilitated.
Prof. Breakfast, thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal Live. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Sam.
That's Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast, political analyst, breaking us down the ANC election manifesto, which happened this past weekend at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. After the break, we'll have more for you on Hilaal Live. Do stay tuned.